My wife's best friend pulled me into the camera blind spot. I've been waiting for this. The security camera caught everything except the moment my life changed. 1 second, I was standing in the crowded hallway of my wife's charity event, smiling politely while guests moved around me with glasses in their hands. The next, her best friend, Emily, grabbed my wrist and pulled me sharply behind a tall decorative wall where the camera couldn't see us. My heart nearly stopped. She looked terrified, but there was something else in her eyes, a determination I had never seen before. Then she leaned closer and whispered that she had been waiting for this moment. Not because she wanted me. Because she had been waiting for the chance to tell me something that could destroy everything I thought I knew about my marriage. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that sometimes the truth arrives through the most unexpected person, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs a little hope, and subscribe to the channel for more heart-touching stories. For almost 8 years, I believed my marriage was ordinary. Not perfect, but real. My wife, Sarah, and I had met when we were both young enough to believe love could solve anything. We built our life slowly. We rented a tiny apartment, saved for a house, argued over whose turn it was to wash the dishes, celebrated promotions with cheap takeout, and dreamed about growing old together. Sarah was ambitious, intelligent, and fiercely independent. I admired that about her. She worked for a non-profit organization that helped struggling families, while I managed a small construction company. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable, and whenever life became difficult, I believed we faced it together. Emily had always been part of Sarah's life. They had been best friends since college. She was at our wedding, helped Sarah choose her dress, stayed with us during the first difficult months of marriage, and became almost like family. I trusted her completely. That was why what happened at the charity event confused me so badly. After pulling me into the camera blind spot, Emily took a shaky breath and looked toward the hallway as if she expected someone to follow us. Her hand was still around my wrist. She finally let go and told me that I needed to listen carefully before I reacted. She said Sarah had been hiding something from me. My first reaction was anger. I thought Emily was about to tell me something terrible about Sarah, perhaps an affair or some financial problem. My mind immediately filled in the worst possibilities. But Emily didn't accuse Sarah of anything. Instead, she told me Sarah had been diagnosed with a serious heart condition months earlier. I froze. Emily explained that Sarah had discovered it during a routine medical examination. The doctors had warned her that the condition could become dangerous without treatment. There was a procedure available, but it was expensive and would require months of recovery. Sarah had refused to tell me because she believed I would abandon everything to take care of her. I couldn't understand. Why would my wife think I would leave? Emily's eyes filled with tears as she told me that Sarah had been quietly selling personal belongings, taking extra work, and cutting expenses because she was trying to save enough money for treatment without putting the burden on me. Suddenly, memories that had seemed meaningless began crashing into my mind. Sarah refusing expensive dinners. Sarah telling me she wasn't hungry. Sarah selling the necklace her mother had given her. Sarah becoming exhausted after climbing a single flight of stairs. Sarah sitting alone in the bathroom for long periods and pretending everything was fine when I asked. I had noticed all of it. I just hadn't understood. Then Emily said something that broke me. Sarah had asked her not to tell me. But Emily had been waiting for an opportunity to reveal the truth because Sarah's condition had worsened. The charity event wasn't just a fundraiser. Sarah had organized it because she was trying to raise money for other families while secretly struggling with her own medical bills. I felt ashamed. I had spent months wondering why my wife seemed distant. I had complained that she wasn't herself anymore. I had accused her of being too tired for us. I had even slept on the couch twice after arguments because I thought she no longer cared. Meanwhile, she had been fighting a battle I knew nothing about. Emily then handed me a small envelope. Inside was a folded piece of paper. It was a letter Sarah had written months earlier. She had never intended for me to see it. The letter began by saying that if I ever found it, she was probably too sick to hide the truth anymore. She wrote about our first apartment, our terrible cooking, the night we danced in the kitchen during a power outage, and the day we bought our first house. She wrote that loving me had been the easiest decision of her life. Then she wrote something that destroyed me. She said she wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid of becoming the reason I stopped living. I couldn't breathe. Emily stood beside me while I cried silently. She told me Sarah had been trying to protect me in the only way she knew how. She thought that if she carried the pain alone, I could continue building my life. But there was one more secret. The procedure Sarah needed had become urgent, and she had quietly scheduled it for the following week. Without telling me. I walked back into the event like a different person. Sarah was standing near the stage, speaking to donors with a smile that looked completely normal. When she saw me, her expression changed for half a second. She knew. She knew Emily had told me. I walked toward her, and she immediately looked frightened. I didn't accuse her. I didn't ask why she had lied. I simply took her hand. She started crying before I even said anything. That night, we sat together in our living room until sunrise. Sarah finally told me everything. She told me about the diagnosis, the appointments, the fear, and the nights she had cried quietly because she couldn't imagine telling me that the future we had planned might disappear. I told her she had been wrong about one thing. She had never been a burden. Not once. I reminded her of the years when I had struggled, and she had stood beside me. When my business nearly failed, she sold her own things to help me pay bills. When my father died, she slept beside me for weeks because she knew I was afraid of being alone. When I lost confidence in myself, she reminded me who I was. Now it was my turn. The following week, we went to the hospital together. Emily came too. She waited outside the operating room with me, holding 2 cups of terrible vending machine coffee while I stared at the clock. For hours, neither of us said much. We simply sat there, connected by the terrible uncertainty of loving someone who might not come back the same way. When the doctor finally walked toward us, my legs nearly gave out. The procedure had gone well. Sarah was alive. Recovery was going to be difficult, but she had a chance. I cried so hard that I couldn't speak. Emily hugged me, and for the first time, I understood what she had really meant when she said she had been waiting for this. She wasn't waiting for a secret romance. She wasn't waiting to steal my wife. She had been waiting for the moment when I finally understood that Sarah needed someone to stand beside her. Months passed. Recovery was slow. There were good days and terrible days. There were hospital visits, physical therapy, sleepless nights, arguments, laughter, and moments when Sarah felt hopeless. But we faced every one of them together. Something changed between us. Before the diagnosis, we had been living beside each other. Afterward, we began truly living with each other. We stopped assuming there would always be another tomorrow. We took walks even when they were short. We cooked together. We watched old movies. We sat on the porch during rainstorms. Sometimes we didn't say anything at all. We simply held hands. One evening, almost a year after the surgery, Sarah asked me to come outside. Our backyard was filled with small lights. Emily had arranged them as a surprise. There was a little table with photographs from our marriage. Sarah looked at me and smiled. She told me she used to think love meant protecting someone from pain. Now she understood that sometimes love meant trusting someone enough to let them carry the pain with you. Emily stood several feet away, crying and laughing at the same time. I walked over and hugged her. I finally understood that the person who had pulled me into that camera blind spot had not been trying to hide something from me. She had been trying to show me something I was too blind to see. My wife wasn't pushing me away because she stopped loving me. She was pushing me away because she loved me so much that she was terrified of hurting me. And Emily wasn't waiting for a chance to take something from us. She was waiting for the courage to save what mattered. Years later, Sarah still has a small scar from her surgery. She used to hate it. Now she calls it her reminder. Whenever she sees it, she remembers that she survived. Whenever I see it, I remember how close I came to losing the person I loved because I was too busy believing everything was fine. Life doesn't always give us warnings in obvious ways. Sometimes the person sitting quietly across the dinner table is fighting a war you cannot see. Sometimes the friend you least expect becomes the one who forces you to face the truth. And sometimes love isn't about grand gestures. Sometimes love is simply saying, "I'm here." If this story touched your heart, please like the video, share it with someone you love, and subscribe. Your support helps these stories reach people who may need their message. And before we end, I want you to comment one word, together. Because sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone isn't money, advice, or even answers. It's our presence. Sarah taught me that. Emily reminded me of it. And I learned that the people we love shouldn't have to suffer alone just because they are afraid of becoming our burden. The camera never recorded what happened behind that wall. But I will remember it for the rest of my life. Because that was the moment I discovered that sometimes the truth doesn't destroy a marriage. Sometimes, the truth gives two people a second chance to love each other properly.